Good morning, everyone. Hopefully your weekend is off to a good start and happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. If you're not catching this video live, hopefully you find it beneficial. Today we will be talking about some basic everyday movements that we do every single day that translate into workouts in the gym and in your movement patterns. So a couple of those are going to look like your everyday just sitting down in a chair. What that looks like is a basic squat movement. And then we're going to go into a deadlift, which is picking up groceries from the ground or grabbing something that you dropped on the floor and picking it back up. So what my goal is today is to help you understand better how to translate your movements in the gym and that you do in your workouts and put them into your everyday lifestyle. The movements that we do most often, those are the muscles we want to strengthen around and be confident in. So that's going to look like those squats, those deadlifts, pulling and grabbing things from shelves from the stores looks like a basic bent over row or TRX row. That's what we're using our resistance band for today. We'll also be going over push-ups and proper form on those. And then going into core, how our core is important in every single movement pattern that we do. So what you will need today, I have a sturdy box. You can also use a regular chair. You want that chair at about hip width, just so you can try to sit back and engage your core with that. I also have a resistance band, a couple of grocery bags. I have my own grocery bags that are little bit more sturdy than just plastic bags, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you have those on hand, make sure that you have them with you. We will be utilizing those today. So number one, I wanted to go over the squat motion. At the studio, at Stretch Lab Fort Wright, every single one of our members, our possible or prospect members, get on and we utilize something called our MAPS machine. And what that stands for is your mobility, your activation, your posture, and your symmetry, and how that all affects your movement. And the movement we have you do is an overhead squat. So we're not going to overhead squat today, but squatting and just doing squatting motions and working your glutes and quads really help keep you stable and help keep a proper posture. So if you think about sitting in a chair all day and getting up from that chair as a squat motion, that may help you engage your core and sit properly, keep a proper posture, as well as get up from that chair in a better way. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the squat motion first. With our squats, you want to be about shoulder width apart. With your stance. Your feet can go a little bit farther than that, and your toes can go slightly out. Pointing your toes slightly out helps you get into your hip girdle a little bit more, rather than just keeping your feet neutral and having your toes pointed for you if you have trouble getting into your hips with that outward activation in your quads. So what we want to do here is just get in a nice posture position, okay? We want to see how our body feels with our engagement. We want to pull our core in tight, squeeze our glutes together, get ready to activate, throw our hands up and make sure our wrists are shoulder width apart, activate, hinge our hips back, and then sit down. See how I'm staying, my chest is staying nice and high. I'm not in a full depth squat, but I'm not rounding my back, I'm not up on my toes, I'm not leaning forward here. I'm hinging my hips first and then sitting in my chair with a nice flat back, chest high, shoulders down, and then I stand. So to work on your range of motion, so you make sure you keep a correct form, that's why I have the box today. So my box looks something like this. People use a lot of, if you're familiar with CrossFit workouts or box jumps, if you have something like that in your house, great. If not, you can use a chair. So what we're going to do with our squat here is you're going to put it at an angle. So it's almost in a diamond shape rather than its regular square. Your heels are going to be against the box, and again, your feet are going to be shoulder width apart. Those feet can stay neutral, or they can go slightly out if it's hard to get through your hips. You're going to take a nice big inhale in. As you exhale, squeeze your abs together, squeeze your tush, and then sit back in your chair and stand. So you see how my legs lightly touched and then I went up? That's exactly what I want you to try 5 times. So go ahead and try that squat motion, see how it feels. It's helpful to do it in a mirror to see, or have someone look at where your pelvis and spine are aligned through this movement. And as you stand, you want to squeeze your glutes at the top, core staying tight. Sit down and stand, squeeze. So now that you just did that 5 times, check in with yourself. Have you been doing your squats in the gym like that? Have you been sitting on the couch or in a chair like that as well? If you haven't, reconnect with yourself. Notice how you are moving through that squat motion. If this was too easy for you, remove this box or get something lower to the ground so you have that support on your tush to help you sit up. That's a little bit of what we call proprioception, or something that is kind of a stimulant into getting you to move up. That little touch gets you to ascend a little bit quicker in that range of motion to make sure you don't have what we call a butt wink. So a butt wink is when your tailbone tucks under, just like this. It just, as you squat, it wants to tuck, and this spine tucks, rather than sitting back, keeping the spine up, chest stays high. So notice how you move through that squat motion. We are going to move on to movement number 2. But again, what I want you to be aware of is how you're keeping your core engaged, how you're keeping your glutes engaged, and are you keeping your shoulders away from your ears. Always check in with yourself to make sure you have a neutral spine. Now we're going to go into a deadlift. So if you have shopping bags such as these, they go great with this, because if your bags are on the ground and get groceries, how are you going to pick them up? That's really going to determine if you're going to have back pain. So if we have something from the ground and we pick it up like this and try to stand really quickly, our lower back's not going to feel too great, especially if that weight is really heavy. So what we want to do for our hip hinging movements, this is going to be picking up a child off the ground, picking up your pen or your pencil, and there's a couple other ways to get off the ground that I can go into as well after this movement pattern. But what we're going to do is, for our deadlift or hip hinge movement, is our feet are going to be hip width apart. So my feet are right underneath my hips. My knees are nice and soft. I'm going to engage that core again. Take a big breath in, squeeze your belly button into your spine, and then you're just going to sit the hips back. So at the side here, my knees are nice and soft. My hips go straight back to the wall. My back's nice and flat. I'm not rounded. So you want to keep nice soft knees. You're not locking out the knees as you would do in a Romanian deadlift. Again, this is just how you should pick up things on a regular basis for the health of your hamstrings. So going back to soft knees, hinging these hips, go ahead and try that 5 times. Make sure that core is engaged. You feel it in the back of your legs as you bend down, stand up, squeeze the glutes. Stand up, squeeze the glutes. Hip hinge down. Everything is nice and in line from your neck down to your tailbone. Okay, so now in that movement pattern, we can start to add weight to that hip hinge. If you don't have bags or anything like that, don't worry, just continue to do that hip hinge. As you see, this may look a little bit similar to you as our squat motion. The difference in this motion is going to be all in the bend of your knees. The key to your deadlift is going to be keeping your hips higher than your knees. So hips stay up tall rather than down here at your knees, while as you squat, you go hips sit and then your knees bend. So deadlift, squat. Just some re-emphasis there. But going back to our deadlift, if you have a dumbbell or something weighted, this could work here, but just for the emphasis of this movement pattern, I'm putting this bag right in between my legs. My feet are again hip width apart. I'm gonna take a big breath in, squeeze the abs in, hinge the hips down, and then grab the bag. So what that looks like from the side is I'm bending, back stays in line, and then stand. So if you do this on a regular basis and you're starting to pick things up nonchalantly, just moving through the motions, that's a great way to cause injury or small muscle tears and cause injury for sports injury or everyday life injury that may set you back, and that's really frustrating. So become aware to how you're moving through the deadlift movement pattern. If you're finding it a little bit hard and it's hurting your low back to do the hip width deadlift, go into more of a wide stance or what you call a sumo deadlift and still keep the hips wide. You're more so strengthening through the inner parts of your thighs. But if you do find yourself picking up smaller things and you would rather not hurt your back, you can always get on the ground relatively easy by going into a reverse lunge. And just doing a reverse lunge really quickly, I'm going to show you here is all you're going to do is step back into a lunge position, hips 90-90. You're going to kick the other leg back. Sit back on your heels and then pick your belonging up. Do the same thing getting up. So what that looks like again, if you have to pick something up off the ground and you don't want to bend over this way, you're going to be, again, keeping your chest high, core nice and tight, stepping back, next leg, go onto your heels, pick up whatever is on the ground, sit back up, and then lunge forward. That's going to be another way to how to functionally pick up something from the ground. So to re-emphasize, if you are noticing yourself not moving in a proper way, or you feel fatigued, or you're seeing muscle soreness from just everyday movement, try to notice how you're moving through your movement patterns in everyday life. Now we're going to go on to our row. So shopping bags are going away. I am going to grab my resistance band here and adjust my screen so you can see my mat here. And all I'm going to do is lace the resistance band around this box. So if you are familiar with dumbbell rows, TRX rows, TRX is a resistance training program with a resistance band dangling from a wall or a mount. Another great way for functional training. Or if you've done seated rows or lat pull downs, this is going to translate into this seated row motion. So this is getting things from your shelves, getting things from the supermarket, anything where you have to grab something and pull it towards you. That's rowing. So with our resistance band here today, or if you have a towel or something you can activate your shoulder blades with, that's also great. I'm just going to lace this resistance band around the box and then kick my feet out so I have some added resistance to it. So with a seated row, and really focusing on this single muscle group we're trying to activate here in our upper body with our lats, to get ready for this movement. And you see how my shoulders are just still kind of relaxed? You want to take a nice big inhale in, poke that chest out, sit the shoulders back, and then row. Hands coming into a 90 and then slowly extend. So you really are focusing on pulling this resistance towards you. So again, you want to make sure that you're not rowing in this type of way. You're just nonchalantly grabbing things from the shelves at supermarkets or plates or glassware from your cupboards, whatever it may be that has you doing this motion. Make sure that you are keeping your core engaged. Your spine is nice and aligned, your shoulders are back, and you're really feeling this muscle group here in the side through your lats and your shoulder blades activate as we pull that resistance band toward us. Again, this is great with lat pull downs, more so hitting through the traps and the lats, and other various exercises through this motion. Now we're going to go to a push-up, and I know doing push-ups sounds daunting, especially if you are one of those people who feels like you have a weaker upper body. They're a hard exercise to master, especially if you have scapular instability or your shoulder blades just don't keep you stable through that motion. What I like to do if I'm working on push-ups is doing incline push-ups or wall push-ups. So if that's for you, go ahead and find yourself a very elevated surface or a wall. I'm going to show you what a wall push-up looks like just on this door frame here really quickly. So kind of looking at the door here, all we would really do is our hands are going to be a little bit farther than shoulder width. We're not really doing a tricep push-up. We want to activate through our shoulders. And with that pushing up, showing you through the plans here, with that pushing up, having those shoulders here, being at an incline, and then kind of mimicking bringing your eyeballs straight at the wall. So keeping those elbows more so closer to your body here, and then pushing through the ground. I think it would be easier for me if I showed you on an elevated surface. So this is another way you could do this with a really heavy box or a chair of some sort to weight it. So showing you on this elevated surface. So if you are on the wall, go ahead and mimic me here. Your hands are going, let's go ahead and put them right under our shoulder blades. We're gonna more so focus on keeping those shoulders in rather than pushing them out or too far out. A lot of people tend to do push-ups this way, and this is a great way to injure your shoulders. Just with how your ball and socket joint is situated in your shoulder, if you are pushing through here, what tends to happen is it wants to fight in that ball and socket joint through and kind of grind and scrape in that area. So it can potentially lead to injury. So the push-up variations you want to focus on are a more pec-focused push-up, which is going to focus here on your chest muscle. So that's when your elbows are more so in a 45-degree angle. And then you have a tricep push-up, which is more so keeping those elbows in, and you're pushing up, keeping those elbows in nice and tight. They're staying glued to the side. So try those two variations, see what works best for you. The chest push-up is, again, a little bit wider with the elbows. Tricep push-up, gluing the elbows. to the side. Again, what it looks like from more so the back, we have a chest push-up and a tricep push-up. As you noticed, everything from my neck down to my heels was in line, and that's really key here. So if you are on the wall and you are pushing against the wall, you want to try to just bring your eyes straight to the position they were in. Your core is engaged like you're in a plank. Your elbows bend, and then you push. You really push against that resistance on the box. So with incline push-ups or wall push-ups, go ahead and pause your push-ups for right now if you're still doing them. But now you get the idea of how and where you should feel that motion. If you're laying on your stomach and getting off from the floor, or working your chest muscles, your chest in that push-pull motion really go hand in hand here. So push-ups are a part of your everyday lifestyle. You have to get up and press yourself off the floor or press yourself off the surface. This is going to be a great exercise to practice every single day with keeping in mind of how you are moving through your muscle groups. Now we're going to hit core, and this one is a toughie. But if you're mastering push-ups and that was too easy for you, always go on the ground. Make sure you're not overcompensating. You're staying nice and flat from your heels down to your neck. You don't want to see this happen. You're rounding and you're pushing and your neck's just bending. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to keep your butt up. You don't want to round here. You're nice and flat. You're nice and stable. You're really pushing up with one single surface from your neck to your heels, all the way flat. So try that motion. If you're not doing it properly, make sure you check in with yourself. Next is going to be hitting core. So I'm going to go into a hollow hold here really quickly. And what a hollow hold is it's pretty much a big core blaster. With our hollow hold, we're going to be on our back. So on our back here, our knees are going to go right underneath our hips, our low back's on the ground, our upper back's off the ground. If our head needs support, throw your hands behind your head. You should be feeling this already, squeezing through the abdominals as your low back is on the ground. Big breath, squeeze that belly button towards your mat. Now, if you want to advance this, kick one foot out. This is level 2. If this is still too easy, kick feet out, maybe go a little bit lower with your feet. Level 3, level 4, arms are going overhead. My low back's on the ground, my shoulder blades are up. This is really contracting through your core, in through the side, and helping your trunk as well as your lower back stay stable with strength. Keep holding, go ahead and try those 4 moves one more time. My hips are on the ground, my low back's on the mat, my upper back's up, my knees and hips are aligned. Kick one foot out, level 2. Level 3, both feet out. Level 4, arms coming out. Low back on, staying stable. Go ahead and swing your knees side to side if you're still doing that. Just kind of stretch your low back through here. That's just going to give your lower back a massage after all that isometric hold. So an isometric hold is just holding a single position like we just did there in the hollow hold for a certain period of time, like 30 seconds or so. So your core is, I think, the most important part of your body. It helps you from staying hunched over, helps you from having lower back pain. If you have a strong core and you have really worked to keep your posture and your spine in good neutral alignment and you have really good breathing through your diaphragm, or your chest stays proud and your shoulders are away from your ears, your core is going to be solid, the stability through your lower back is going to be solid, and you won't have that lower back pain. So if you're finding yourself having some lower back pain or having core activation issues like we discussed in the studio, working on core specific movements and engaging your core in the proper way is going to be the key for you. Every single movement and exercise that you do engages your core. So proper engagement of that is very, very key into keeping your spine in neutral alignment through squats, through sit-ups, through push-ups, through rows. So every single movement encompasses your core. Make sure you're activating it properly, and that will help keep your spine moving in a proper way. Now that we've been through 5 different movement patterns with a basic squat, which translates into sitting up and down every single day. We went through a deadlift or a hip hinge, which translates into picking stuff off the ground or hip hinging. And then we went through a seated row, which is picking stuff up, pulling stuff towards you, grabbing stuff from the shelves, our push-ups, pushing off surfaces, getting a lot of force through the chest muscles, and then finished with core today, our last movement, really keeping that spine in neutral position with our core staying nice and strong, helping our lower lumbar area stay stable through our movements. So that core stability is very important. Now we're just going to touch on 5 easy stretches to hit those muscle groups. So for your quads specifically, I like to do either a runner's lunge or a standing quad stretch. If you're looking for more of a deep tissue muscle type of scrape, you can grab your rolling pin and roll it all over your quad muscles, or a nubby foam roller with spines on it to help get deeper into the tissue there. But just kind of going over how you would do a standing quad stretch. If you need some extra support here, you can find a wall, but the big key here is to not just grab your ankle and stretch it. You want to make sure you're engaging, so this involves some balance. So if you need a wall, go ahead and find yourself. Feet are going to be shoulder width or hip width apart. You're just going to grab the right leg. You're going to tuck the tailbone under, so you're tucking this hip under. And then you're going to pull that heel to you. So that's a big stretch in the hip flexor as well as the quad. If you want to hit different parts of your quad, go ahead and just pull your big toe towards the left hip. And then you can pull the pinky toe or pull the foot out towards the outside of the right hip. See how I kind of angled the foot? And again, that's a big stretch through this quad muscle. So what it looks like from going from a relaxed position to an active or a passive stretch position or static stretching is I'm here, I grab the ankle, I engage the hip, pull the heel to the glute, big stretch through the hip. I would complete that for about 30 to 60 seconds on both sides. Go ahead and switch sides. If you want to challenge yourself, try it with a balance. Move away from the wall. The balance is really going to help the arch of your feet as well as the 3 balance points in your feet pads to help keep you stable through this. This is really great for your joints as well as the elasticity in your muscles and helping keep your tendons strong around the joint capsule. So now that you have switched legs, make sure that you are keeping that tailbone tucked in, heels to the glute or as close as it can get. You're feeling the stretch in the proper place. Another thing, go ahead and come out of that stretch. Another thing you may want to check in with yourself on is which side is tighter. If you notice more tightening on one muscle group on different sides, make sure you're not overcompensating on one side versus another, and talk to a personal trainer or a flexologist on how we can work on that. Now let's go into the hamstring muscle group. With our deadlifts, we're gonna do another just standing hamstring stretch. I like the kickstand stretch. So right now my feet are again hip width apart. All I'm going to do is kickstand my left foot to bring my left heel in line with my right big toe. And I'm going to hinge those hips, keeping the back nice and flat, just like we did in our hip hinge. Left toes towards my face, hips, shoulders parallel to the ground. If you want a deeper stretch, tuck your chin into your chest, round your back, and grab your left calf. Big breath in and exhale. If you want a little deeper stretch, put that foot back on the ground and lean in. Big stretch through that left hamstring. Slowly round up, vertebrae by vertebrae. And then you're just going to switch out that position, doing that kickstand hamstring stretch, leaning back into the hips. Toes to the face, heel in line with that toe. If you want that deeper stretch, tuck that chin to the chest, lean in towards that leg. Maybe put that right foot towards the mat and lean closer to your right leg. Big breath in. As you exhale, slowly roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. So again, another great standing stretch for hitting your hamstrings if they are sore or tight is that kickstand hamstring stretch. As you notice, again, your feet staying dorsiflex and plantar flexed onto the mat is going to matter on how you feel the stretch and what feels best for you. So now just getting into the chest and the back. A couple of just shoulder openers. You can either do cat-cows or you can do the stretches we're going to do right now. Simulates the same movement of our middle back motion. All we're going to do is lace those fingers together, round them, so my fingers are laced together. I'm just going to open the palms, pull open the shoulder blades, just like I did here. So what that looks like, my arms are relaxed, lace your fingers together and pull open the shoulder blades. Just a couple big breaths here. You're really focusing on rounding through this mid-back area and really pulling your shoulder blades open. Now you're going to swing your arms back, lace your arms behind you, and then pull open the chest. So that difference there is just going to be opening up the chest, maybe raising the arms to get deeper into the chest, or just raising through the shoulders. And the other one's opening up the shoulder blades through here. So two just chest and shoulder openers, opening up through the shoulder blades, and then doing the opposite, opening up the chest muscles. Now for your core, we're just going to find ourselves on our back again. And then notice how our core is moving. I like doing cobras to kind of see how our hip flexors are feeling as well. But for low back specifically, just doing small side-to-side low back rotations. If you want a little bit longer of a stretch, find yourself here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Go ahead and switch sides if you have not. And then last one to kind of check in with your hip flexors for core is just going to be opening up through the hips, not rounding too much in the back, and then opening up your trunk via cobra or extending the abdominal muscles. So those were those were 5 basic movements that we do in every single day living patterns and movement patterns that translate into movements into the gym and every single day life. So if you have noticed that you have found some imbalances or you want to work on some movements, I encourage you to jot some notes down, maybe rewatch this video and check in with yourself and how your squat or your deadlift or your push-up is looking with a personal trainer or a flexologist, and then checking in to see where your muscle soreness is at with those stretches that we completed following the muscle movement review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today and have a great weekend. I will see you tomorrow for Sunday's live stretch, which will be more of a meditation and yoga focus. Have a great one.